Good evening, Farm Talk. We're going to continue the series, things that I'm looking forward to for the future of agriculture. Next up on the list, we're talking about drones. Now, some of you may have seen some of my videos about some of the ag drone work that we've had done for us here on the farm. And let me tell you, I'm here for it. The future of drones for agriculture is absolutely tremendous. When I first saw a couple of drones out with a spray tank and little tiny booms and stuff on them, my first thought was, well, this is cute, but hardly practical, unless you're maybe like an orchard or something really small. But I really thought that, man, there's a lot of potential to this. And I even got to fly a couple of these drones early on. And man, that made that, you know what they say, men never grow up, we just get bigger. And so do our toys. Well, yeah, I felt like a kid in a candy store that day. I had so much fun flying that drone. But now the drones are massive and they can actually hold some decent weight and volume now. And we're not just talking about flying drones. XAG has a ground drone now that is narrow enough to go between 30-inch rows and has a fogger on it. And they're even working on a seed spreader for it as well. DJI's T40 drone holds 10.5 gallons of liquid on it now. Now we're finally getting to the point where we can start covering some acres, especially if you can start using them in swarms. And their T50 drone, which is not yet approved for use in the US, but is in, I think, a couple other countries overseas, has a tank capacity of almost 20 gallons. I think the math comes out to 19.8 if you don't speak freedom fractions. Now we're really starting to make progress in how much these things can carry and how much ground they can cover and how much volume they can push out. Am I saying that, you can go ahead and go trade off all your ground rig sprayers and the ground rig sprayers are completely done for now until the end of time? No. It's not quite there yet. And like I've said before, I'm not going to be truly happy until I can essentially have a Predator drone with a big tank and booms on it and go out and spray stuff. What I'm saying is if the bureaucrats will just get out of the way and allow this stuff to continue to develop at the lightning pace that it is, looking at you, FAA, the future for these things is unlimited. I'm imagining a future where a day or two after a rain, when all these plants are now really starting to grow, they're really pulling from the ground, that I can load up a bunch of drones, go out and spray our corn, our soybeans, whatever, and not have to worry about cutting any ruts. Now take a second with me here and imagine the possibilities and the benefits that, drone spraying can bring to bear just for your ground health and well-being and your crops. Sprayer ruts, compaction, it could be a thing of the past. Your time windows, which are traditionally kind of short because you're having to worry about ground conditions and crop conditions and your weed height. Now those windows are a lot wider. Then you also have driving over the crop and smashing down a bunch of your plants. Now you're getting all those plants back, you're getting coverage in those areas, and you're getting money from that plant that you haven't ran over. And it's not just about spraying, there's also the seed spreader attachments that are on all these drones. Now you've got guys that are spreading brome in their waterways. You've got a couple people that have been experimenting aerial interseeding cover crops into standing corn, standing soybeans, standing milo, things like that, where traditionally by the time they get it out of the field, they just don't have a growing window to try to get anything to grow in the fall before the winter gets there. And yes, these drones do require maintenance, upkeep, and a lot of parts to keep them flying. They're not perfect. However, you can replace a lot of drone, propeller motors and arms and pumps for the cost of, a couple of planetaries on a big ground rig. But drones in agriculture aren't just limited to spraying stuff and spreading stuff. You also have drone scouting. And if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I've been using a drone scouting group called Tyrannus. Now, this video is not sponsored by them in any way. However, if you're looking for the best in the business as far as drone scouting goes, then look no further than them. The money I saved by making better decisions using the information that Tyrannus' drone scouting provided me this year not only paid for the drone scouting, but I also saved a bunch more money on top of that. I have a whole video about how much it actually saved me. It's a fair ways back. You'll have to go find it. Between these fantastic drones that at this point now can fly rain or shine, and the artificial intelligence that's paired with them now, they can spot and identify a June bug at like 150 feet up in the air running 45 miles an hour. Right now, I have a drone that I like to take out and fly. It's nothing fancy. It's a nice drone. It's the Mavic Air 2S, and just a basic consumer drone. And even it has value in the world of farming and ranching. The other day, there was a prescribed fire being done, and I thought, you know what? That'd be kind of fun to get to fly over the top of. So I did. Well, while I was flying over the top of it, I actually noticed that they missed a spot during one of their, when they were lighting the actual full-on burn side. And if I was part of that burn, that's actually something that I could call out to the folks on the ground, say, hey, you got a spot that skipped and needs to go back and get relit. I've even flown it over my cattle and got some fantastic pictures with it. And while doing that, I realized, especially like during, calving time, if I'm wanting to keep an eye on a cow that's in the process of calving, but I don't want to bother her by constantly driving up on her, I put the drone up, fly it over, keep it about 200 feet up in the air so she can't hear it, look down with the camera, I can see whether or not she's calved, or if she's starting to have some trouble, or if it's taking her too long, all without having to bother her. So yes, this is definitely something that I'm really looking forward to for the future of agriculture. I absolutely love almost everything about drones and the technology they can bring to bear. Now, do drones have a few downsides? Yeah, right now, the batteries, though getting better, they're still not quite there. I've actually seen a few different drones that actually use like 2-cycle chainsaw motors to fly. A couple of folks in South Africa are doing that. That's pretty dang cool. But there's still some, bugs to get worked out of the system. It's definitely not perfect yet, but it's getting there. So there you have it. Another thing that I'm excited for the future of agriculture. As always, thanks for stopping by.